Oh, I have such a good question.
It is
for you.
June 3rd, 2019. It is Atlanta United FC Weekly, a Home Before Dark podcast. You only did 1, 2, 3, 4. We had 6 points. We got 6
let's
points
talk about
recently.
6, baby. Is that what you were trying to do?
Soon.
You were trying to do that?
Talking about 6 points.
Oh, okay.
From Minnesota and from Chicago.
But what about you, though?
Chicago. Yeah. I'm not going to bring it up. I'm not going to gloat. I will say, though, that there was a very strange experience on Saturday in the stadium. A lot of miscommunication. Anyway, I am Tim Herb, and as always, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, a bearded one, Mr. Kevin Bradley, across the way from me in the corner.
Yes.
In the corner, because tonight we're joined by our buddy, the ethereal sports media guru of Atlanta, Joe Patrick.
Yeah.
Covering all things Atlanta United, all things Braves.
Stop it. Stop. I don't deal well with this, but no, thanks for having me. It's been a while. It's been
a year.
I think since like the beginning before last season started, I want to say, or like right before it started.
He's just rubbing it in our face that we're
yeah.
Back when we didn't have central heating or central AC in the studio.
Doesn't smell quite as much as feet now.
That's nice. True. Yeah, it's very nice.
Give it time.
Yeah, Pirlo farts still get bad.
Soak into the carpet
if he has an upset stomach. But yeah, thanks for coming out, man.
Thanks for having me.
Anyway, so Saturday, really weird. I'm not going to touch too much on the game that actually happened beforehand, but Champions League final happens. They open up the stadium early.
Who won? But did they win?
Yes, Liverpool won. So leading up, so they opened the stadium early. It was really weird. They were like, "We're going to open it at 3. You guys can come in and watch the game on the Halo board and on the TVs in the stadium." Okay, we get there. They only have one gate open, and they say it's going to open at 3. It really opens at 2:45. Okay, we go to our seats, and they're like, "No, you can't sit there." We were sitting in the loge suites. Got those tickets, pretty nice, like the ones up in 130.
Oh yeah.
The little suites. We went to go sit there, and they're like, "That's fine. You can't sit there yet, but you know, walk across the aisle. You can sit in those seats." We sit and we watch, and at halftime. This is where the miscommunication, I feel like, was really weird. At halftime, the Halo board's like, "Okay, you can now go to your seats." And it's like 10 till 4. And we go and sit there, and then the lady comes running. She's like, "Not till 4. You got 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock." I was like, "But the board
does it matter?"
But it seemed like it seemed like it was
what's going to happen in these 10 minutes?
Yeah. What does it matter?
What's wrong with so Joe Johnstone's giving you shit for drinking Buffalo Trace?
He's giving shit to the wrong person.
I bought it for him as a gift.
I like it.
Okay. All right. So
I likes it.
So let's settle it there. You're a jerk, Joe. Unless you're trying to say it's too highfalutin, which it's not.
No.
It's very much not. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys are not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell icon, the bell Holcomb icon, and get notified every time that we go live. Got an international break coming up, so recording schedule is going to be a little weird. So next Monday, probably not recording.
We'll take a break, and then we have
U.S. Open Cups next Tuesday.
Yep.
Which
something like that.
Yeah. Against Charleston Battery.
Maybe
in Charleston, right?
Yeah, it's in Charleston.
Yep. And then after that.
Now I see why Joe was mentioning.
Wait, what did he say?
He said, I like it as well, just not my typical price point.
Okay. Rub it in. So my gifts are not good enough for him.
That's the problem with buying me bourbon is I'm always going to know how much you spent on it. I already know before I even get it.
So Kevin came across town to let Pirlo out while we were gone in Raleigh. And I'm texting him like, "Yeah, my brother-in-law's asking what your favorite bourbons are." And he's like none the wiser. And Kevin's like, I like this $200 bourbon, this $350.
I did not. Yeah. I did not. I gave it breakdown per price point for that.
And I walked into the liquor store over by me and was like, "These are expensive." And the lady's like, the lady's like, she's like, "You made a really good choice." I was like, "Okay, good."
Buffalo Trace is a great choice,
cool.
And I am very appreciative of it. I would never judge a man by the depth of his wallet to buy bourbon because there's plenty of options at a decent price point.
Is that the Angel Share or the Devil's Cut?
Yes.
Have you had those?
No.
Why not?
Because they're gimmicky.
Are you above Beam?
Because they're gimmicky. And I don't like the gimmick shit.
But they catch the Angel Share evaporating out of the barrel. And
now, Angel's Envy is pretty great.
Okay. I probably can't afford that one. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us tonight. If you guys are listening to us on iTunes and/or Apple Podcasts, which iTunes is going away as of today.
Yep.
iTunes is
What?
Apple just said.
Yep. So
They're
don't
actually, yeah.
So even though things happened in our ratings on iTunes, doesn't matter anymore. We'll still take your votes, but we got other charts to climb.
Yeah, it's very weird. Like they,
But you could still vote in Apple Podcasts, though.
yeah. You're not going to get,
Huh.
I don't know if you guys have the weird thing where like sometimes you go to open a link and it's for an app you don't have and it launches iTunes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I don't have iTunes
Right.
on my phone. Anyway. But yeah, if you guys are listening to us on Apple Podcasts and or Stitcher, leave us a rating and a review. We will read it live on the show. And do we want to get the fantasy ratings out of the way?
Go ahead.
There's a double week.
Well, while you're pulling it up, I have some discussion and points to mention. It's a good day to have you here, Joe, because I had a dilemma today.
Okay.
It's not often that I'm confronted with the fact that we live in such a large city and that players and other individuals that we see week in and week out talk about week in and week out live normal lives amongst us. And at any given time, you could bump into them.
Right.
That happened to me today.
Oh yeah,
I bumped into Gressel.
Gressel. So you were in Midtown? Is that
No, I was in Buckhead. I'm not going to put him.
Joe knows where he lives.
I'm not going to put him on blast where it was at. I bumped into him in a store, and it was a situation where I don't know him on a first name basis.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I have no reason to interact with him other than the fact that I know about him through Atlanta United.
Right.
And so I had to do the mental, like, do I call him Julian? Do I call him Gressel? First of all, like, it's weird to see them outside of context. So then I was even second guessing it.
Yeah.
And so I just had to inquisitively be like, Gressel?
You're right.
So then I sounded like an idiot to begin with.
You Julian Gressel?
And he goes, yeah. And I said, hey, man, it's really nice to meet you. Shook his hand. And I was like, I'm not going to bother you or anything like that because he was shopping. And I didn't want to be that person to be like, oh, let me get a picture with you. Well, he was clearly there with friends and stuff like that. But how would you approach, both of you, how would you approach a situation like that?
Oh, I would hide in fear, just like I did whenever. And this was even lower level, right? Angie and I went to Brewster's one night, and Jose Hernandez and his crew roll up, and I'm like, oh, I'm too scared to say anything.
So I did have that happen with Alton Brown at a restaurant where he was sitting a few tables away from me. And that was one where there was no reason for us to cross paths. And I would have had to go out of my way and interrupt his dinner to just say, hey, basically. This was, we were both standing and in proximity to one another. I always take that approach of like, I'm not going to interrupt their day or their experience for something that clearly they do on a regular basis.
It's probably different on your account because you interact with the guys on a daily basis.
Exactly.
Yeah, but a lot of them still don't know my name. Like they wouldn't be like, oh,
it's probably better that they don't know your name, right? Yeah,
probably so.
Yeah, no, not from you.
Someone like Julian, because I've done something with him, like personally. We did a YouTube video where I interviewed him, and that was like a little more intimate, like one-on-one. It was not part. It was not like team related technically. So. Someone like him, I would be more fine with going up to them. To be honest, if it was anyone else, I probably wouldn't even like approach them at all. Yeah. Or because I see them, it's not like for me, I see them pretty often anyway. Right, so it's not like it's something where I need to like go have this moment, at least for my own memories to, be with them. So, but yeah, it would be weird. I don't know, like, the blurry line is like Parkhurst, Lorenowitz, like those are the kinds of guys where I'm friendly with. They know who I am, but they probably wouldn't know my name. I would guess they wouldn't know my name. So
Jeff, I feel like just because of us I'd have at least some sort of leg to stand on to be like, hey, we talked at Elder Tree, blah, blah, blah.
My extent of that goes with Scott from the security crew, where I saw him whenever we were in club, we had to watch the players come in. And I'm just like, he's one that actually will like if I said something, he'd recognize and like give me a handshake.
It is weird to have to put everything else on check though, whenever you meet people like that of any kind of celebrity, because you instantly just want to fanboy out.
Yeah.
But you just have to be like, no, you're a person. I had to recognize like where I was. If it was at a game, it'd be one scenario, but having to recognize that I was in public with somebody clearly doing something that they didn't want to be.
They're not all going to be the and the problem is like it's the whole don't ever meet your heroes thing.
Yeah.
because you never know how it's going to end up.
Yeah.
You can't all be like, my brother met Jeff Foxworthy at Whole Foods up in Alpharetta or Peachtree Corners or Johns Creek, one of those places. And he's like, do I say something? He did. He's like, oh, hey, Danny, nice to meet you, man. Like,
that's awesome.
He's like, what's your name? What do you do? How are you doing?
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's just like the nicest guy, but it's not always like that.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
again,
yeah,
and I think you kind of give them the opportunity to engage in that, right? Like if you want to meet them, say yes, hey, how's it going? Like I'm a fan. And then if they want to have a conversation, great. But again, they're living their lives.
You're putting the ball in their court at that point, and whatever they want to do is good. You know, as a journalist, it was similar for me when I first started covering the team. Is like, I kind of saw them in a different light beforehand than when I was doing afterwards. So when I first started, it was. I mean, and I swear, any sports journalist, they're lying if they say it's not like that. Yeah, that they aren't kind of in not in awe, but just like.
Oh yeah, you're kind of taken
that
aback
they're in the presence of like a celebrity of some sort, you know.
I do like Kevin Brown's suggestion: scream "Gresselmania" at the top of your lungs and immediately start crying. That's his plan.
I don't know. I don't know if there is a bigger Julian Gressel fan than Kevin Brown is.
He can't get Bello and Julian Gressel. He's got to pick one. You got to pick one. I'm gonna put you on the spot, Kevin.
One's a little weird because you're a grown man and Bello's not even 18 yet.
That's true.
That's like the weird thing. Like whenever I was tweeting about Chris
Goslin, and he's got priors, so you might need to.
It's like I caught myself tweeting about Chris Goslin and Andrew Carlton last year, like kind of like fawning over them. I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. I'm 31 years old and they're like half my age. This is gonna get taken the wrong. This is Twitter. This is gonna get taken the wrong way. We're gonna get canceled.
I was actually surprised when I met Gressel for that thing. I asked him, but when we were getting set up, just like, how often do you get stopped? Because I would think it would be a lot, and he actually said like the way he responded to it didn't seem like it was that often. He said he was like, from time to time. Yeah, but like not like I would have thought it would have been all the time, especially in Midtown. I feel like there's a huge part of the fan base that lives there and is surrounded there. But
Tony Neitzel saying he saw John Larroquette in Portland, and I am very jealous. And you guys aren't even mentioning the John Larroquette show. Brian's talking about Night Court, and they're talking about Parks and Rec, but John Larroquette and the John Larroquette show.
So how do you So the second thing that happened after this engagement was I was immediately confronted with the fact that just last week.
That you're a sneaker addict now?
Well,
yeah.
We don't need to talk
We're not going to talk about the circumstances that brought you to me.
We don't need to talk about the fact that I go walk into every sneaker shop in the mall every day just to look.
At least you're getting your steps in. You're getting your steps in at lunch, going and breaking the bank to go buy Yeezys.
I don't buy them. I just like to look.
And then go get them off StockX. Okay,
so Joe, I think you would have a good. Maybe you're in a different situation because you do see them regularly. But I was immediately confronted by the fact that right after I got done saying hey to him and then tweeted it out, I was like, oh no, he's gonna listen. He might listen to the show. And last week we were being very critical of him.
And then you're like, no, he's probably not gonna.
I was like, well, then I definitely was like, oh well, there's no way in hell he's gonna listen to it. But then still, even if he doesn't listen to our show, there are other media personalities that he may engage, that players may engage with in a social manner or meet or engage with, that they may go back and read an article that they wrote or see them again in a press meeting where you kind of have to answer for some of that stuff. Is that weird at all to you?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's why, at least from my perspective, like that's, I do think about that stuff.
Yeah.
But you also kind of have that, you have that in your mind. You have the experience, those experiences of talking to them in person when you're writing about them. So you kind of see them in a different light. You don't kind of like objectify them as much. Like early in the season when everyone was wanting Frank DeBoer to be fired and everything like that.
You included.
It's like
you were a big Frank DeBoer out person, right?
yeah. And again, I was fine with saying like the team was playing poorly because they were, but like I don't know. You can understand it, I guess, a little bit more. You see it a little bit more on like a personal level when you're that close to it, I think. But
I guess the difference is you're also not saying that they're a piece of shit human being. You can. I think it's fair game to criticize performance on the field.
Yeah, sure. I think it's usually, you don't see it very often, and it really happens with more of the immature head case players where they end up like legitimately going after the media whenever they're in the locker room. Yeah. Like big example I can think of is Jason Williams, white chocolate. In the NBA, whenever he was in Memphis and one of the journalists was in the locker room, he's like, "No, you ain't writing nothing, homeboy." And he took the pen out of his hand. He's like, "You ain't writing nothing, homeboy." And I was just like,
That's crazy.
That's pretty awesome, but at the same time, like,
that would have been really great
if
I shook Russell's hand. He slapped the shoe out of my hand. He's like, "Keep my fucking name out your mouth."
It's funny that we had this conversation considering you met Julian, because I would say he is one of the guys who's like more prickly if you criticize him at all. Like, there was one time that happened last season where Tata Martino had moved him into like a central midfielder role.
Yeah.
And
kind of like he's playing a little bit right now.
Right. Yeah, totally. And he'd been playing on the wing forever. And then like it was his first game playing central midfield. And when you have that kind of experience, oftentimes it doesn't go super well when you're moving into a different position for the first game. So I just, I asked him something about that. I said, how difficult how difficult was it to transition to that position or whatever? And he was like, "Do you think I played poorly?" And I was like, "No, sir." No, I didn't say that, but it was just like stunned to like get like a clap back at me a bit.
Well, I think some of that also maybe has to do with the timing of hearing those things. I mean, you're typically in there talking to them post game where it's really fresh to hear some of those things that maybe they're already feeling a little self-conscious about or through.
At this level, a lot of the time, I think these players especially successful players are going to be probably their biggest critics. Yeah. And you're probably right where like you see the frustration, like whenever PD gets taken off, that frustration is not just because he's getting taken off. I think some of it is he didn't have time to like correct course and that sort of thing. That they're pissed off at themselves. But you're right. I mean, it's fresh wounds, open wounds, and good old Joe Morton over here just putting salt all in there.
Yeah. So a lot of people going off in the trap about Frank versus Tata.
Is that true? Frank is technically right now better points total than Tata was in season 1.
I don't know. I know that we're one game shy of total shutouts that we had all of last year, and we're not even halfway through the season.
We equaled last year, I think, in clean sheets.
I thought we were one shy of. I thought we were sitting at 7, and we had 8 last year.
We're on 8 now.
We have 8.
Oh, that was our 8th.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
8 wins, 8 shutouts.
Okay,
$16,000 donated to Choa, which is what I really care about. That's awesome.
Fucking awesome. But a lot of people talking about Frank. I'm assuming both of you guys, I know that you did because you tweeted out. You saw the article that got written up today about Frank and changing his mindset, coaching the team and stuff like that.
Talk about blowing up someone's spot. He lives on the 23rd floor and you might as well just tweet it out his address there.
All you got to do is find all of the buildings in Midtown that are more than or less than 23 floors or whatever. Anything that has less than 23 floors, you filter out. I think you can narrow the buildings down to maybe 7 or 8 in Midtown. You camp those out over a series of. I'm basically telling people how to stalk him.
Just doxing the coach. Yeah, that is a little weird.
I was shocked to read that. I had actually been heard that. It's funny because I had heard that he lives on the 23rd floor of I don't know what building it is. I was given a descriptor. Right. I don't want to say anything more about it, but I thought that was so funny. That was like
that is a very specific thing.
Yeah, 23rd floor. Okay.
Yeah, also, it's within viewing of Mercedes. Like they got very specific about like you can see the stadium. It's the 23rd floor.
He's on the west wing of the building. What, is that like a mandate? Is that like because at Home Depot, all the higher ups have to be in the side of the building able to see a Home Depot. No, I'm serious.
What?
Yeah, so in Vinings, so the Home Depot's headquarters in Vinings, like right at the corner of 285 and Paces Ferry. And the higher ups they have a window view that looks down on the very first Home Depot store on trying to think of what road that is now, Cumberland Parkway. Yeah, they have to look out like a morale thing. It's like you're supposed to look out onto the original flagship store and think about it.
So
unless that's a very expensive way of framing your first dollar.
Yeah, exactly. So the article takeaways from that. Tim, did you get a chance to read it?
No, I saw some of the snippets. The things that I saw were kind of the takeaways and things that you touched on in terms of like his compromises, meeting kind of the players in the middle on some of the game or the tactics and trying to get guys comfortable or going away from the traditional Dutch style of the pregame.
The biggest thing to me, man, I mean, there was a lot of really interesting points in that, but to hear the players or read about the players talking about his engagement with the locker room and him, I forget the fact that these men are kids in a lot of regards,
dude.
Right?
Yeah, we talked about it the other day. Is like
you're dealing with 20-year-olds.
Crazy to me that
like you're dealing with 20 to 25-year-olds.
Like Brad Guzan is maybe 6 months older than me.
Yeah,
like that's like he's 32, right? Guzan's like 32 years old,
probably something like that.
Yeah, that's crazy to me because he seems like like to me like so much older than I am.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I know. It is weird, and it's funny because I've talked with Felipe Cardenas about this before, about how last year you would never see Tata Martino in the locker room.
Yeah,
you would never see him in the locker room. He would be there. So when you go into the locker room, you basically like if you go one way, you're going into like the main locker room area where the lockers are and stuff. And then if you go the other way, there's like, it's like an auxiliary room and there's like a Keurig and like, sometimes they would do some press scrums. That's where, Tata would hang out over there from time to time. He would, be like sipping on a tea or something, just chatting with people, but he would never go into the area where the players are. But now Frank would be like
Frank's
walking around there like eating.
Hotel room.
He'll be like eating eating a burrito in there one day.
Yeah.
He eats anything but lettuce. Like that guy he's what, almost 50. He's shredded. Like he's so tiny still.
Yeah.
Like you see those old players, usually they start developing a little bit of a pooch.
It's just interesting to hear his approach to coaching.
He eats carbs.
Embracing the age and the mentality of the majority of the players that he's coaching. And you don't see that a lot of times. It's always like business forward or very standoffish, like what Tata Martino employed. It's the business aspect of coaching and the tactics and stuff like that. And very little of the engagement with the players on an individual or personal level. And I think that's what it takes to be a successful manager for younger kids who maybe need to buy into a system long term, especially with his plans as it relates to the academy or youth players. It's weird to think, I think a lot of Miles Robinson's success has just been him as a player and where he fits into this lineup. But I can't help but think that maybe that lends itself to some of his success and willingness to do things in this lineup is that relationship that the players are building with their coach day to day. Barco staying after practice and doing free kicks with him. Like you see these things that maybe correlate to some of these players' success outside of just their inherent abilities. And it makes me a lot more, we were never on the FDB out train, but it just makes me that much more happy and excited about where his tenure over the next 4 years is going to go.
Well, the article to me really highlighted, there is a cultural difference in just the way that they, that Frank de Boer and a lot of the South American players just kind of approach the game and approach like the whole regimen that surrounds the game as far as training is concerned. I remember, so like one of the things they talk about in the article is recreativo, when they just kind of like play loose. They just like play like fun games on the day before a game.
Yep.
And I remember going to a training one time, and during this period of the trainings called B-roll, where they allowed news cameras to go out and shoot, and journalists like me can just watch. They were playing basically ultimate frisbee, except instead of a frisbee, they were just throwing a soccer ball around. But it was all with their hands, like they were not playing with their feet at all. And I think the news people were like, "Come on, like we can't put this on the news. Like we're talking about them playing soccer. Like they're just throwing it around with their hands." Right. But that's just kind of that's something they do to get loose. But
at the same time, I feel like that's what builds up the chemistry in between players. It's just like playing pickup. Totally. I feel like I have more. Anybody that plays soccer knows that if you're going to build up a relationship with the players around you, you get that by just goofing off more so than just running drills, because so much of soccer is based on personality and circumstances. And if you know the personalities and tendencies of players around you, whenever you're able to have that free flowing style of play, it definitely helps whenever the game's on the line and stuff like that.
And I think that what Frank is kind of learning, or what he has learned so far this season, is that there's a blend of both that can happen in terms of having doing that stuff to build those relationships, but then also having tactical discipline to be regimented and to be able to know your job, do your job on the field. And I think that's what we're seeing with Atlanta United this season. They look so much more solid.
Absolutely, especially defensively.
So I went back and listened to Frank de Boer's press conference after the first Herediano game that was played at Kennesaw State, and after that game, he talked about how he was really pleased with the team because they controlled the game even when they didn't have the ball. They had a lot of possession, but even when they didn't have possession, and he talked about like that was kind of the things that he was going to try to build. It's funny because, as time has gone on, we've kind of seen that, not happen at times. And then, of course, they've gotten much better at it in recent, 6 weeks or so. And the team has really improved in that regard. And so it's interesting to kind of go back and hear that at the time. And you kind of don't, you hear it, but you don't quite know what it means. And now we're kind of seeing what it means unfold in front of our eyes.
Especially this week. And I guess that's a good segue into talking about the game this week. So we always start out talking about lineups. No major changes.
We didn't talk Minnesota at all. But lineup, literally no changes between Minnesota and Chicago. It's the same exact lineup that we saw from game to game.
Yeah. So Minnesota, I will defer to you two because I was sort of passively watching it and then kind of read up on a lot of stuff, a lot of criticism about
he's having an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, parking the bus, being up 1-0. Obviously, we get the 2 goals late. What were your thoughts?
We certainly did play more conservative after we did get that first goal, right? I mean, I don't think there's any question about that. It was a little weird. It always felt like at some point that the bottom was going to fall out for Minnesota, and it finally did. Like the dam finally broke at a certain point. It was an interesting game because it seemed like the crowd was getting a little restless for a while, and then as soon as Joseph scored that goal, whenever he had that kind of. It wasn't really a one-on-one because he got past 2 defenders, but whenever he beat Manone in that first goal, it just seemed like a lot of pressure was raised off. And then Minnesota just had they got the orders, the marching orders to just start pushing and pushing and pushing. And then Iko Para had like the worst gaff I've ever seen from him.
That was so bad.
It was beautiful. I felt like Dion Pereira played well.
Yeah.
That was one of the big takeaways. I think it was weird seeing
he was like the man of the match.
Right. It's a big settling in game for him because he's not been terrible whenever he's been on so far, but he hasn't been a standout player for me.
To me, it's every other game right now. I think he needs consistency, and it's something that you're going to get eventually from a young player like him. You see exactly why he's getting played, and you see he looks so silky smooth on the ball. He looks so in control, but then at times he does lose the ball.
Absolutely.
But that was kind of a talking point on social media whenever they announced the lineups, and I saw a lot of people grumbling, or before even the lineups were like, I really hope Dion Pereira isn't starting. And my initial thought was like, I don't know why. Like we don't have another person to put up there right now other than maybe Breck Shea.
Well, I think Justin Miram people may have wanted to see because they made the trade
on the left. But on the left side, it seems weird putting Miram in there, right? Because he's usually more central or coming from the right side, or at least that we've seen him in Atlanta United. Yeah. And he's usually playing in the hole for Columbus from. I don't know.
Yeah. No, but I think it shows that he's just not fully integrated into the team as much as Dion Pereira is especially. And so that has a lot of value to have just been training, with the group of guys for that long, that gives you a huge edge.
It's a payoff. And it's also not a nail in the coffin. I think I don't know why my mind immediately went to that. It's just another thing to point out that he's getting starts over Andrew Carlton too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Somebody a 17-year-old elder statesman or an 18-year-old elder statesman of Atlanta United who just keeps getting passed over.
Well, it seems to be less so about the skill and more so about the things off the field that Frank keeps mentioning when asked about Carlton, about his distractions and things that's more what's keeping him out of playing, I think, than just his ability to play. But,
So there was a stretch of games before he started making these benches where he was playing a lot for the 2s, and I think that had people concerned, myself included. Why is he playing with the 2s? Right. So it turns out that was actually a request and like an agreement that Carlton and the club had made to let him play those matches with the 2s instead of sitting on the bench because he wanted basically like tape and to get his fitness up in case he got called up for the U20 World Cup. He was trying to make the U20 World Cup.
That's fair.
He wanted to be playing full games. You're right. Totally.
Makes total sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. So, but I think that, I wouldn't discount what Frank said about him either. You know, like he said
again,
that
I
stuff
think
for a
that's
reason.
part of him being in this role of, that's the other thing that being that style of coach, of being very friendly with players, is you hear and know a lot more about other players because you're in their social circle.
He's very frank when it comes to these things. But really, I mean, and we talked about it, I think last week or a couple weeks ago, that those comments came out and then you immediately saw Carlton start to get on to the 18. Mm-hmm. And it was almost as if he was exposing what they were going in his quest to get back into that match day squad. It's
the thing. Carlton still has a lot to work on to get it. I mean, the reason he's not making squads is because there are other players that are better than
absolutely
him, and he really needs to work on his, like, honestly, just his core strength. And I know that that's something that Frank has talked about when he's talking about professionalism. He talks about
pity that way all the time.
He talks about diet. He talks about being in the gym when you don't have to be in the gym, to get stronger. I mean, when it's very noticeable when you're standing next to a professional player, their legs. I always say this, like, you look at their legs and you can tell they're like not like a normal human's legs.
Right.
And Andrews kind of still has normal human legs, as to where he doesn't have like veins and blood vessels like popping out of his calves.
There's a reason why Tito wears his shorts so high.
There is.
Speaking of veins on legs, somebody was talking about Schweinsteiger having varicose veins on Saturday. I thought that was pretty great. I can't remember who said
That's pretty great.
I felt like that came out of our Slack, but
another big point about Minnesota game, save of the year for this team, at least so far.
Yeah, Dan got us ratioed on Twitter by
thanks, Dan,
by making it seem like that ball crossed the line.
Pretty insane run of play there, though.
That was
crazy.
That was very insane. Like, I felt like I was getting really nervous leading up to that, and then that happened. I was just kind of blown away, but at the same time, I mean, it's the way it rolls sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we've been on the losing end of that.
And they
game
have
prior, like,
and so you said that they do have goal line technology if needed.
They do, right?
So they do not. I didn't know this. I thought they would have, but yeah. So we had to get clarification on this. The VAR is basically oversees goal line.
But they have,
instances.
I guess that they would have camera views right on the line to be able to tell.
I didn't see one that they didn't. If they do, they didn't show it on TV. Like,
I didn't either. That's why I was like, I'm assuming they have goal line, and that's why I didn't
go
to review or something.
Yeah, Elliot Beaven brings up one of the things that a lot of people were talking about. Even if that ball would have crossed the line, there was handling of that ball by Minnesota before it crossed the line. So in VAR would have probably overturned that. Yeah.
Oh, it was a handball before?
Yeah, there was a handball by I think there was a hand by an Atlanta player too. It was a real crazy scrum. I mean, but the handball by the Minnesota guy happened first, so I think that would have negated anything that would have happened on the play.
Takeaways from that game: Joseph, like, getting the monkey off his back. Yeah, I think scoring 2 of those goals one-on-one, like, just his confidence level seemed high, and you saw that rolling into Chicago with the shots that he was taking.
Mm-hmm. And he's feeling it because he's gotten a new celebration now. That he's like, you can tell he's just loving it. He's absolutely loving it.
Not only has he got a new celebration, but he's even tweeting about it. What he tweeting, like, the more you give a king, the more he wants. Yeah, it's like, oh my God, Joseph, come on.
He's getting more dramatic too, with like how he'll like walk slowly, and slowly take the knee.
The one thing I thought was very telling though from the press conference, I don't know if you tweeted that out whenever he was talking about, he's like, the fans don't think I hear them when they're saying, why isn't Joseph scoring?
Yeah.
He said, but I do. And he's like, it's like, that's the shit that got him so pissed off in Torino. It's like, Alpharetta Dad's just out there pissing off our best players.
It's funny because I was just listening to the 92.9 post-game report on my way over here, and they had Julian Gressel on, and Gressel was like, just want to thank the fans for sticking with us through that tough time. He's like got the message on brand. Yeah. And Joseph is just like not sticking to the script. I'm sure the communications people are like, no.
He said, I guess there's no non-disparagement clause in his contract. I guess that he can't go after the fans.
You always know he's going to say something good when he's talking in Spanish, because I don't speak Spanish. You always know it's going to be something good when you just see Justin like start like chuckling like next to him.
That's a good call.
Anything else from that Minnesota game that really stood out? But to your point, I mean, and I think Kevin and I had talked about this off camera about this team just feels, I feel way more confident in this team's ability to consistently get a result than I did in the previous 2 years. Or like it feels this team is far more predictable than it was, especially in year one, and even at points in year two, where especially the defense first mentality that we have, the ability to control the game, as you said, on and off the ball. I just feel a lot more comfortable going in. It doesn't hurt that we have the best center back in MLS, and it's not Leandro Gonzalez-Perez, and it's not Michael Parkhurst.
I think,
and he's not on the All-Star ballot. It's fucking ridiculous. I don't know if he made it on there yet, but
I agree with you. But I think my confidence more lies in the I am confident, and I can pretty much bet on what Atlanta may do defensively, which is a first for this team in 3 years. And it's been a concerted effort by Frank DeBoer and the coaching staff to rectify those issues. They pointed out that was a big problem with Atlanta United over the first 2 years. And so from that standpoint, I think the scoring is on a positive trajectory, and I think it's been consistent, but I still think the bulk of my confidence has now shifted from where it maybe was so much offensively last year to now being more defensively confident in this team and its lineup.
It's funny because at the beginning of the season, I remember when that quote came out. I think it was in one of Felipe's articles with Parkhurst, I want to say it was, where he said that like Frank, wanted more defensive control or wanted to improve the defense. And I remember reading that like, really? Like, I didn't remember it being that bad, but then now you can really tell the difference. And it's funny, I was texting with a friend of mine who's also a Tottenham fan. I'm a Tottenham fan, and he was comparing it to like when Tottenham before Mauricio Pochettino, and they had like these fun teams with Gareth Bale and stuff that would score lots of goals, but they were still like very flaky and would concede all the time, and therefore it held them back a bit. And now it's like now it's like current Tottenham where you're just more solid. You feel more confident going in the game that you can at least get a result, and that a draw is kind of like the minimum you feel like you can get out of a game. And but
it's
3
funny.
points is
I mean, you look at that
like
you have a Swiss cheese defense a lot of times in like the Spanish league and Barcelona. They'll have good teams sometimes, but then like Real Madrid and Barcelona, they'll give up a lot of goals a lot of the time, especially in Champions League. But the best teams in England, I mean, you talk about Tottenham and Liverpool and Manchester City, they start like their defense. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the goals allowed, it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's where we're standing right now too.
Well, it's also, you think about, I think it was Bobby Boswell's talking about Atlanta United under Tata and his time here and how the training was structured, that their defensive playing was playing it out of the backfield and playing the counter. It played directly into the attack more so than it did just in the defense. And you've seen something completely contradictory to that under Frank DeBoer, where they are controlling and possessing in the backfield and defensively rather than just let's play it quick and punish them on a counter. And so from that standpoint, not only are they doing that, but to do that confidently and consistently is a really welcome change in this lineup that's helping to build some of the possession-based style of play that they want to continue down the field as you go. So
I'm glad you brought up Bobby Boswell, because one other thing, this is like not on the exact same topic, but I remember he tweeted something about how Tata had like grievances filed against him for too many training sessions or whatever. It's really interesting watching Frank, because Frank is the total opposite. Like they will train some of these games when they play, like this week when they played on Wednesday and then again on Saturday. So Meaty was only there for Friday. They didn't have any training. They had some regen stuff for people who needed to go get treatment the day after the game. But then their only training day was Friday, and they literally went out and like did rondos for like 20 minutes and then it was done. Like really no training at all. Almost. It was just kind of like go touch the ball a bit. That was it. He seems very conscious of the team's energy levels, which is smart in my opinion.
Well, especially considering the
running games. I mean, he knows how dead they are.
Yeah.
In that podcast I was listening to on my way over here, Julian Gressel was like, "Yeah, I was toast at 70 minutes, which is why I had to come off." Which is funny because he never really comes off. He's a guy that usually you can rely on for 90 minutes. So it just shows like how worn down these guys are. Everyone that we've asked about it said they've never been through a stretch like this in their careers.
8 matches in 5 weeks, 6 weeks,
28 days.
28 days. Yeah. Shit, 4 weeks.
Yeah. 4 weeks.
Yeah, and we got 6 wins out of 8 matches.
And you were flying across the country twice. You were going to Vancouver, then New York, then back to Salt Lake.
Vancouver, Atlanta to Vancouver, Vancouver to Atlanta.
Flew halfway around the world, I think Conte's stat was crazy. Also, apologies. I did not know that you were a Tottenham fan. Now I feel like an asshole. That was just Tim. Like, I definitely was not doing that.
So it was, man, yes. No, so Saturday was brutal. I was actually going to watch the Champions League at the stadium. That was kind of my plan going in. I had some friends who live in Midtown that want, like the guy I was telling you I was texting with about, he was going to be watching it in my buddy's apartment down there, and I was like, nah, it's in Midtown, there's a lot of like driving, parking's weird, and there's not that much time after the game ends before getting over there. But anyways, I did decide to, like, last spur of the moment decision was like, screw it, like soccer's about watching it with your friends. I'm not gonna like sit in the press box watch by myself or even just like. So I went over there and watched it, and it was pretty sad getting back over. I was just like, so normally I sit next to Sam Jones, who's a Liverpool fan. I made him go sit next to Doug on the there's he sits on kind of like the other side of the stairwell, so he's a little separated. So I made them sit together. Oh man! I just kind of watched the game quietly.
That's a penalty, right?
Yes.
On Sissoko. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
It's like I kept describing it as like,
God, in the level-headed person.
You know, in the NBA when someone's guarding and they have their hand out and they try to do the quick shot.
Yeah,
it wasn't intentional like that, but it was like that where it's like it's a foul. Like it's
by the book,
right?
My thing is
just like the dog show a couple of weeks ago. Maybe for Martinez, but
Tim Parker getting sent off.
Yeah, exactly.
So for me, it's like Sissoko's arm's out in the first place.
It
hits his bicep and then swings down and maybe hits his wrist on the way down too. It's like, anyway, I just got to.
It was an unfortunate play for him.
No, I do not envy him at all. It's not. It wasn't really even not his fault. No, it's not his fault at all.
So
I just wanted
it was a penalty.
Okay,
I feel like we've neglected the trap a lot tonight. We apologize. You can call in and leave voicemails and tell us how bad we are about it. 678-827-3297.
This is so cool, the setup you have in here.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Huh.
It's
it's way more advanced than what I'm typically working with.
We did have somebody talk about you guys jumping ship to come over here, but
no pressure.
And Andy Watkins stoking the fire.
Oh, I know Andy.
Yeah,
he's a good dude.
So
the goodest of dudes.
I guess the big thing that came up is left back with Kevin Brown. A couple of things that really came up this week was Frank's. And we'll still talk about the game.
Congratulations. So Julian Gressel gets his green card.
Yes.
Gordon Wild gets his green card. And then we let go of Anderson Asiedu.
Yes.
Who was taking up
I'm glad you did all the background because you need to know about the Asiedu to know
so we were actually overloaded on international slots. I think that's why a lot of guys are in the twos, right? So we went from having 11 guys taking up 8 international slots to having a free international slot at this point. So that brought in speculation immediately that there's going to be some sort of move. And then Frank added fuel to the fire saying he wants to bring somebody in during
without missing a beat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Was it you that asked that question?
It was Doug.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Like,
man,
yes. We all started laughing when he said, it was like, yes. And then we started laughing. Then he started laughing. He was like, yeah.
Can I tell you how much I love Doug's personality on Twitter? Just how sometimes unprofessional is not the word, pithy that he gets with people.
Yeah.
I find it refreshing. Yeah. I find it very refreshing that he's not just like by the book tweeting out news. He's actually interacting. He's like, somebody asks him something
he will not bite on my shenanigans ever. Him and Rob Ustry never bite on my shit.
I think Rob has us muted at this point.
I'm actually positive that's it.
The amount of times you've told him to imagine dragons at this point.
You're right. That's my fault, really. It's really my fault.
No, but somebody's like, why was Gressel playing this way? He's like, Doug's just like, why wouldn't he? Like, where do you expect him to play? It's just like, if you take the text at just flat, like face value, it's like, wow, he's being a jerk.
Well, I felt bad speaking of Gressel because after the Minnesota game, it was, I think they had announced him before that. Yeah, it was Minnesota. And so we were waiting for Gressel to get dressed before we talked to him. So I'm just like standing next to him. I'm like, Doug, ask him about his green card. And he's like, and he didn't really say.
That's what I should have said today. I should have been like, congrats on
exactly. Yeah.
Damn it.
I was like, ask him about the green card. And so he was like, he didn't give me an answer. So then we walk up to him and first thing right out of the gate, Doug's like, so how does the green card work? Do you hold it in your wallet? Or do you, what do you do with that? Just kind of joking around, just try to get him to talk about it.
No, you use it whenever he gets a red card. He can trump it. It's like Uno. You just switch it to green. It's like, no, back to you. Reverse. Drop 4, drop 2.
So I tweeted that exchange, and I get that it did not really go over that well. People were like, "Come on, Doug." I was like, "No. He was just joking around. He was just being having some fun."
It's not like he asked, do you have to lick the back of the food stamps before you put them on the...
That hits too close to home. That is too close, Tim. You know me. You know where I came from. You know that was a real part of my life.
What if your tongue's too dry from the powdered milk?
Okay, fuck off. I'm out of here. Okay. It's okay. You could just spritz it with the tears that you've soaked up from your dad leaving.
That's the thing. Like you go and try and make Kevin uncomfortable, and he's just like, nope, I'm gonna just. That's the trump card. That's your green card. Is growing up a bastard. Like that's. So you are of sorts. People seem to look to you as the Guillaume Balog of our like confirmed transfer rumors or confirmed like rumors that are coming through. Is there legitimately anything that you've heard about position wise? I mean, people. I think naturally.
Real dark.
I think naturally, just based off of the reaction in the stadium whenever Breck Shea plays, I think people's first thought is we need a left back.
Yeah. Oh my God! But he almost scored this week.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. He looked really good at the night, left wing role.
Looked great.
Yeah,
he looked great as a winger.
Right. He needs to play left wing. He's never been a left back.
Right.
Like, he's been deployed there as like a stopgap.
Yeah. So when he was brought in, of course, Frank de Boer was playing like a 3-4-3 or whatever it was when he came in. And I remember he was like the second day of training this season, he was on the media sheet. So we got to talk to him and we were like, someone asked him like, are you willing to play left back? And he was like, well, on this team I am. Like not on every
Orlando
team.
City.
Right. Yeah. Not on Orlando City, but like, I am here. But it sounded like what I took from that was like, it wasn't his preference to do that, but like he could do it. Like he would be willing to obviously do it. But I think we kind of saw after that last game that it's probably not his preferred thing. But I'm with you. I think the left back situation is mostly fine, especially with Parkhurst. For me, it's like I'm honestly fine with Parkhurst out there on the left. I just know he can't play it all the time.
I would be more fine if I knew some sort of trajectory and maybe you know better than I do. George Bello, do we anticipate seeing him again this season potentially?
This season, yeah, I think so.
And then Mikey Ambrose, who's been in and out of speculation. He's made the 18 a couple of times. Where is he at in this? And where does he fit into this whole mix?
So I don't think Frank is as high on Mikey as Tata was. Tata seemed pretty willing to use him like whenever needed, especially like if he was playing a back three, if Tata was playing a back three.
Because he's been healthy for a couple weeks now.
He's been back in training. But I just think that the feeling I get is that Frank doesn't really just rate him as highly.
Interesting.
But I think he's played with the twos. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see because he started against Monterrey in Monterrey, but that was at right back,
like right wing back, back
there was
three.
There was no
really weird.
Yeah, of course you're gonna think it's like putting Joseph Martinez in as a defender and be like, I don't think he should start as a striker anymore because he didn't.
Escobar was out obviously with the injury, and I don't know what Julian Gressel's situation. Oh, Julian Gressel also got hurt. Yeah. He had like an small ankle injury and he was out for a couple games. So I guess that's why he had to fill in there. But so. Kind of going back to the question about Anderson Asiedu and the open roster spot. So Splot. I keep on saying that.
Keep drinking.
Spot and slot. Yeah.
Come on. Water's fine.
So it's important to note that Anderson Asiedu occupied basically like one of the last reserve spots. There's like all these different like qualifications for your different like literal spot on the roster. So there's like 18 senior players, and then there's like players that are designated for like minimum wage guys and like homegrown players, that kind of thing. So that was one of the slots basically that Anderson Asiedu occupied. So basically the only player that could come in for him would have to be either a homegrown player or a player that's like not on a lot of money, essentially. I don't know. It doesn't have to be the minimum, but not much more. So basically, to me, that says that if they fill that slot, it'll be with a signing from Atlanta United 2. That seems to make the most sense to me because I don't think you're signing. There's not a player out there. You would have to get him on a free because you wouldn't be able to really pay a transfer for that slot.
Daniele De Rossi, right? I mean, he's made enough money in his career,
right? Exactly.
Like, he can come in and fill in that role.
So there's a guy. So I keep on seeing people saying Jose Hernandez, who's a player that signed under Tata,
left back,
left back. But honestly, like he's not the best left back at Atlanta United 2. The best left back at Atlanta United 2 is a guy named Guillermo Benitez. He's a Panamanian that they signed this offseason, and he's been playing in the U20 World Cup. Actually had a really good U20 World Cup. I think he drew a penalty for them. Really good player, very athletic, just out and out left back. I would, kind of like more similar to Bello than anyone else. He doesn't have the technical ability that Bello has, but he's kind of like that just athlete, fast, can get up and down, which is similar to like, a Franco Escobar, that kind of player.
Right.
So I think that's a possibility. I don't know what's going to happen with it. It could be anyone. It could just be they could just sign a player to that slot who is just a guy they want to like lock down. It could be like there's another guy, George Campbell, who's a center back, very promising center back, but he's going to go to college. He's got an offer to go to Wake Forest, but maybe he would be enticed by a first team contract deal, so who knows? I'm not sure exactly, but honestly, when he said that he wanted to make a signing and he talked about it being a player that can come in and contribute immediately, I don't think he was talking about Anderson Asiedu's roster spot. I think there's more plans.
Okay, yeah.
I think there's more plans for obviously more activity.
So you're saying even that international slot we couldn't fill with a TAM guy?
What do you mean?
We could.
The international slots. Yeah. So I mean,
that could be occupied by anybody, right?
Anderson Asiedu's spot.
Yeah. On the. No.
So there's a difference between a roster spot. I just said it again. A roster spot and an international slot.
Right.
It's
Okay.
working.
So those are different things. Like an international slot is just like a designation.
We're speaking the same
so
language.
Basically they have room to go out and sign an international player. They probably don't have the TAM for it though. They would probably have to sell someone to get that money to be able to spend.
Something that I know he's a hometown kid.
I mean, I've speculated Tito.
That's probably.
I think that when you look at Tito Villalba, you're thinking of a guy who's probably coming toward the end of his deal. I mean, he's not a guy. He's probably coming toward the end of his deal, so you want to sell him while you can still get value for him. He's a player that pretty clearly Frank DeBoer doesn't rate as highly, or it's not. He doesn't fit into Frank DeBoer's system the way he likes to play as much as he did for Tata Martino, where he fit into his system perfectly.
Right.
So I think the player Tito, I think he would be willing to do it. If he's not a regular starter in this team, he would be willing to make a move. I'm thinking somewhere like Mexico, possibly, a lower league, like La Liga or Serie A team or something like that. I don't think he would go for much money. I think it would be like, $4 or $5 million, something like that. But that's enough to get you a good chunk of GAM back.
Because at this point,
we would make a tidy profit on him. I think he was like 2.5 to sign, 2.5 or 3 or something like that.
And we're going to see at least 2/3 of the profit, right? Because he's been with us for almost 3 years at this point.
Yeah. And you free up the TAM that you were spending on him for his, because they were spending significantly on him.
He's like on $500,000 a year almost, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, it would open up significant funds for them to go out. If they did want to go out and sign a big player, they could come in and step in. So if anyone's read Dirty South Soccer today, me and Rob kind of had a conversation about this, Rob Esri, basically speculating that, Assad could be a guy. Like it would still be it's still a long shot, obviously, when you look at the world of players available to sign. But if you were going to sell Tito and you had a slot to bring in, Assad is a guy who would probably come in and assimilate to the team faster than any other player out there.
Right.
He's already played here, been here, knows some of the players, has a relationship with Joseph. So, but who knows? Darren Eales would have a relationship with the club and his agent to make a deal happen potentially. But there's lots of players like that. So who knows what will happen?
Yeah,
but I think Tito's going to be sold this summer.
Again, my biggest thing with Assad for Tito is like, what are you picking up from one that you're losing in the other? Like
technical ability, maybe.
Yeah, in tight spaces, like kind of like you're better.
There were a lot of, but then you've got Barco and Pity for that purpose. Whenever Barco comes back, again, it's like what role are you filling that you don't have in the lineup between Nagbe, Barco, and Pity?
To that point, maybe that is better to look at it that way. That Barco's return to the squad is replacing Tito, and Tito's outgoing would replace maybe Jeff or another central midfielder. I mean, there's speculation that Nagbe could go in the summer, right?
Yeah, I mean, Nagbe's a guy. I mean, obviously. I still stand by the story that Dirty South Soccer reported this preseason that he wanted to move out.
And again, I wouldn't blame him for it either. I mean, he won a championship. It's his second championship, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And then to have the ability to go back to his hometown to play for his hometown area.
You think he still goes back now, considering where Columbus is in the lineup?
He could. I mean,
I guess he could to make a difference.
Yeah, to come back and play for Caleb Porter and make a difference up in there. What's wrong with Columbus right now? They haven't won in a while, right?
It's brutal. I think did they just win?
No, they drew NYCFC. I think
that's right.
I think they're winless in like 7-8 games, something like that. Yeah. I may be wrong there, but
it was so weird when so there was like these rumors, and we had reported the story, it was clear something was up, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
If you would watch any of those preseason games, he was just like standing around watching like the Cal State Fullerton college kids just run around him. And then he was sent home early. He got there late and was sent home early. So clearly something was up. And then they bring him out to the media one day, and it was like he had like been out at the dentist. Like he had like a dentist appointment he had to get home for. It was like, oh no, I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm fine here. I'm totally happy. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
So there might be something still there. I don't know. But I do think that central midfield is probably I think that's the kind of the biggest area that needs strengthening.
Yeah, because right now you've got Jeff, Nagbe, and Remedi. That's really it, right?
And that's it. Yeah. Like whereas Kratz is not like he's been injured, and who knows what you're going to get back from him, when he's healthy again.
Right. Yeah. And then
it was this transfer window that we picked up Remedi last year.
Yeah. I mean, as far as fullbacks go, I mean, that's the obvious thing that people want to see. But I mean, you talk about Parkhurst on the left, Escobar on right. If Escobar's injured or gets a yellow card suspension like he has right now, leading to our next game, Parkhurst can move over to the right. Breck can come in on the left, and that we've seen that work, right? I mean,
it's funny to me that fullback is probably one of the areas of need. I totally agree with that to get depth there, but it's kind of funny considering Atlanta's defensive record this year is amazing. And people are like, we need a left back. Like we need,
that's what's great. So do you guys see, I know we haven't really touched on Chicago at all, but one of the points
let's do to segue into your point again. I know that you're about to make a point about Chicago, but we got three.
No, not talking about Chicago.
Okay, I was gonna say after this we'll do like top three. We'll just all do 3 points from the game or something.
Okay, so what I was gonna say is we touched on it earlier. We have 8 wins. All 8 of them have been shutouts. We have not won a game when the other team has scored. Obviously, is that something that you should be? I mean, obviously that's obvious math, right? But is that something that you should be worried about at all?
Not personally, considering the way some of those games went whenever.
Like we rescued a point against Cincy, gave up the point against Philly, or maybe it's the other way around. But the other game, I mean, the wonder goal against from Savarino, or not Savarino, it was Savarino with
Savarino.
Real Salt Lake scoring that crazy goal at the end in stoppage time to beat us. And I don't know if you worry about that.
When we were up 2-0 against Chicago, I said when Atlanta, proper journo, was up 2-0. I was like, they should just let up a goal here. Just get this bad stat off their backs. It's like who cares?
That's almost like the same mindset of like whenever the Patriots went undefeated and they're like they should lose in the regular season.
Just so it's not hanging over them.
But then they can't go undefeated. Like
makes no sense. I think it's mainly just like coincidence, happenstance that's happened. But I think there's part of it that Atlanta has struggled, or especially early in the season, to score goals, and so they weren't kind of, when the defense was leaking some goals, they weren't in a moment where they could score and make.
But
those
to
games.
that point, like now we've won a handful of games by multiple goals, but we haven't. We still. What's our biggest loss? Is the 2-0.
I think it's the Monterey game. The biggest loss regular season
is Columbus and DC at 2-0. And those games were not aberrations, but they should be taken with a grain of salt because of the weather.
Was in a monsoon, so there's that.
That game should have been canceled. Like that was a game.
But the games that we're losing by a point, right? And we're losing by a goal, and we're not giving up a bunch of silly goals.
And again, even those games are kind of silly. You lose to Red Bulls team that's down a man off of a crazy, unfortunate series of events that the goal sneaks in late. And I'm not too worried about that.
Dirty Bird person. So they're all talking in the trap about the Unimas broadcasting and just how bad it is.
Yeah. That was amazing. It was amazingly horrific. It was just like, oh my.
So this is what we're projecting to do is for away matches. The next foray for home before dark is going to be to do live commentary here in the studio where we put it up there.
Yeah.
We have you and other content
you do like
providers.
Mystery Science Theater.
Exactly. So everybody can queue up their match at the same time, and we'll do commentary and have just different guest spots rotating in and out, and have our own watch party together. That's what I think we're going to do.
I think that'd be fantastic.
Maybe we can do it for Open Cup next week.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'd be a good first one to do it for.
Dirty Bird Person, I like what he's saying, though. He says, our commentators are great, but I sometimes miss the drunk English uncle whose name escapes me. We had one season, LOL. Alan, what was his name? Alan Green?
Well, I'll fill that role.
Alan Green was just the...
I've got a story about Alan Green, but I'll share it with you guys after the show.
After dark. All right.
Dark, right.
So 3 talking points about Chicago. We'll let guests go first. Joe, 3 talking points about Chicago.
Oh, can we include Minnesota in this? Or
Yes,
are we just thinking of Chicago?
Just closing 3 comments for this past week of play before we get to voicemails.
There we go. So I was covering for a Minnesota outlet against Minnesota, and I thought it was interesting talking to one of their defenders, who basically said they played a back 3 so that they could have a guy man marking Joseph and then have a center back basically well positioned in each of the channels that he likes to run into. I thought that was kind of eye opening. Like, that's how much teams are dedicated to just stopping him.
Right.
And making someone else beat him. Yeah, and it does.
Absolutely.
It is almost working. So that was interesting to me. What else happened? We found out that Joseph likes to drink glasses of rum.
That's true.
The most hardcore thing I've ever heard in my life. Oh,
speak for yourself.
Maybe it's just me and rum, but me and rum.
He's just filling souvenir cups with Bacardi. It's his day off.
Just pouring bottles into those Atlanta United souvenir cups.
That'll be $6. What kind of drink would you like? Leave it empty.
No, he's just drinking rum chata in the middle of summer.
Rumate. Rumate.
And then one last one, I guess, from Chicago would be, I think that the game was like, I think we can all agree it was like a very fun game to watch. Yeah. There was like a lot going on. And I think the reason for that was because Chicago came out and played a soccer game toe to toe with Atlanta. They came out, played a high line. And I think that just made for, Chicago could have won the game too. Like, they had plenty of chances, but that's what made for a fun game to watch, regardless of who won.
For me, or do you want to go next?
Yeah, I can go.
Go ahead.
Point number 1, P.D. Martinez getting still no respect from the referees. Granted, sometimes he makes a meal of it, but he's not. It's the same thing that we saw last year and the year before. He's not getting the calls, just like Miggy. Miles Robinson is a grown ass man. He's the best defender in MLS. I stand by that. He is unstoppable. I fear not any ball that comes near him. He is no frills, but you can't get past him. Like, his athleticism, his size, everything, his positioning. Most of the time I get worried whenever guys poke at the ball on the back, but whenever he lunges that leg, I know he's about to hit the ball.
Well, he had a moment in Chicago where he lunges one and then drags his back foot to pick it up whenever they make the cut if he missed on the initial, which was fucking brilliant piece of defending.
So good. I said, he is a fucking grown ass man. Some guy in front of me looks back, he goes, yes. Right. And then Joseph, man, I said it earlier, just watching the relief kind of wash over him. It seems like his confidence is back. And then to Kevin Brown's point, he likes to eat arepas at 10 p.m. whenever his grandma brings him to him.
That's amazing.
Do you think his abuela serves him arepas on the Orlando City Invitational Tournament?
The question is, has she ever made a peanut butter and jelly one like we have?
Oh,
I doubt it.
That is people who are listening or watching. Be very careful if you ever try and make a dessert arepa that is filled with peanut butter. Because
especially if any hot oil gets inside of it.
It gets real thin and real hot.
Just like lava down your chest. It looked like that scene out of Game of Thrones where they put the gold helmet, the golden crown. The golden crown. It's like that, but with peanut butter down your chest.
See, for me, that reference does involve Peter Dinklage, but it is from Ragnarok. Whenever he's making the Stormbreaker.
Exactly.
The throat breaker is what that we should have jumped. It's like, if you don't eat that before you want to record.
It's pretty great.
Michelle's right. 9 p.m. It is about that time.
It is.
We start devolving into chaos.
My 3 points. So several of them are direct relationship to what we already talked about with the articles and the way that we've sort of prefaced things with the way that players are playing and practicing leading up to games and building up chemistry. The first goal in the Chicago game from start from start to finish, I think one of the best team-based goals that I've seen this team score in the past 3 years.
By team-based, it was 3 dudes that just absolutely destroyed.
Well, 4. I mean, if you include Guzan, who initially gets pissed because he thinks that Escobar isn't making the run, he throws it. He does this classic like dying on the cross inside goal, and throws it out to Escobar. Escobar makes the run up line, and dude, I mean, it was like watching Atlanta United, both my first point and my second point, the first goal and then a missed opportunity in the second point. It was like watching Atlanta United try to run a triple option in soccer, where Escobar runs the ball up the wing, sees a defender, step 2 before he plays the ball off at the last second to Pity Martinez in space. Then Pity draws the defenders, plays it off to Escobar, does the back heel. He slots it through once. He's pulled the defenders into a wide open Joseph Martinez, who all he has to do is put it on frame. Beautiful, just a fucking wonderful goal. I mean, just start to finish.
The final pass from Petey was amazing.
Absolutely,
the way he was able to split the defense.
But again, Escobar knowing all he knows that Petey's going to run the overlap. Mm-hmm. He does the heel back to him. Same thing. Pity has the awareness that he needs to draw the defender to open up the lane to Joseph in space. Like start to finish, that entire run of play was fantastic. Same thing, kind of piggybacking on that in the second point I had to make, which is set pieces, something that we've seen Atlanta consistently struggle on in the past few years. You saw a short corner that had an actual setup approach to it, where the short corner gets played out to Pity. I think it was Pity. And they run the triple option where they have an overlap on both sides of him, where I think it was Escobar took the out route, and then it was Joseph or no, Pity was the one that took the shot. So it must have come short to Nagbe. Nagbe takes short corner, overlapping run. Escobar takes the out route to the top of the box. Pity takes the inside route to the top of the 18. And Nagbe essentially has a 2-step pace to see how the defenders react. If they pull to Pity, he has a layoff to Escobar running up at the top of the box. Opposite happens where they kind of get stunned. He lays it off to Pity, who has a 1-touch on goal, nearly gets past the keeper. Just fucking great set piece that we've not seen consistently out of this team.
We noted that with some of the guys up in the press box. We thought it was like that was the first time they've done like a set play like that all year.
It seemed like an organized attempt.
3-man weave.
Yeah, it was an organized attempt at a set piece, which I have not seen this team do.
Was that, just to touch on Pity, is that the best game we've seen from him? Like from start to finish?
I think it was.
I think so too,
the one that where he scored the goal will probably overshadow it, but I mean, I thought it was his best overall performance. His defensive work was so good in that game too.
Yeah.
Which is something that people have been critical over. And it's something that he's stepping up really quickly.
Yeah. Last point, I think that Breck Shea gets a great game against Chicago. Nearly has the goal. Brittany points out he misses a wide open shot on goal. I think a lot of that is him reading and listening to all the tweets in his head right as he gets the open shot. He gets in his own head a little bit. But that said, I think he looks much more confident, much more comfortable, and a much better player at left wing rather than left back. And we said that whenever he came out in left wing a couple of weeks ago. So
how many DMCA notices do you think that the DeBoer out account has gotten from using the Celine Dion music for that Breck Shea? It just stops in the middle after he takes the shot.
Oh God.
I think it'll happen though. The amount of space that I saw him getting in
he's had multiple opportunities.
And the one touches, it was very fluid the way that he came into that lineup.
Absolutely.
It was very encouraging.
Absolutely.
Anything? Oh, fantasy rankings. Hold on, just a second.
Fantasy rankings and voicemails. We got 7.
Oh yeah, we do have voicemails. Fantasy rankings. We have in 5th place. We have For the Whom the Bellow Tolls. We have in 4th place FC Apogee. We have Thought Marker SC in 3rd. Don't Var Me Bro in 2nd, and then Soccer Specific Fantasy Team. Andy Watkins of the Trap in 1st place. And then
Unstoppable. When does spring finish?
I
gotta be soon.
know.
It's almost halfway through the season. So
yeah, you would think so.
I think he's locked up leg 1 at this point.
Let's see, how close is it? It is 15-25 to 15-14. So Don't Var Me Bro is only
it was only 10 points last week. So he's
11 points. Yeah.
He's
I guess
pulling away.
Pulling away by 1.
Yeah.
It looks like we have is that 5 voicemails that we have?
Oh wow!
How many?
Wow!
No, maybe not. I don't. It's not refreshing. Let's see.
I think we have too many in our inbox. Several people were complaining that they couldn't get a voicemail.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Several people were tweeting that.
I guess Google Voice doesn't allow you to have that many.
Yeah.
I'm just going to start deleting all the ones we have from previous weeks. Actually, hold on. Just 1 second. Oh no, how do I go to?
I'm gonna be real upset whenever he finds it, but then the audio doesn't work.
Pressure's on.
Did I accidentally
Breck
delete?
Shea wide open in front of goal here.
I think I accidentally just deleted one.
What the fuck?
But they usually let you keep. They're usually in your archive, so you can.
Oh my god.
Google's holding now onto that thing for eternity.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It still exists.
It better not have been Michelle's.
It was.
You fuck.
Because we listened to it earlier.
God, she's so excited now that you accidentally deleted hers.
Oh God.
Damn it.
That's my mistake. Sorry guys. That was a completely honest mistake.
678-827-3297.
Hold on. Let me
again, the number is 678-827-3297.
My question is for Joe. Joe, let's say that you.
Hold on. Can't really
This
hear
is
that very
awful.
well.
Sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher.
Hold on.
Long time.
Good grief.
Caller. My question is for Joe. Joe, let's say that you, Felipe, and Doug are in an old-fashioned.
Good grief, man. This is not this stupid old mixing board.
2 questions. One,
Okay, here we go.
Okay,
here we
let's
go.
do it
Let me
for
start
real
over.
this time.
Yeah,
Let's
I'll
do it
start
for
over.
real this time.
I'll hang up on this.
He just hung up and listened.
Sorry, guys.
Hey, this is Andy, longtime listener, frequent caller. My question is for Joe. Joe, let's say that you, Felipe, and Doug are in an old-fashioned media scrum to try to get the quote from one of the players. 2 questions. 1, who gets it? And 2, what's your strategy for taking the other 2 out? I'll hang up on this.
What's the strategy for what?
Taking the other 2 out.
Who gets it? Well, it's probably Doug. Kind of gets some preferential treatment. He's kind of like given the first question, like in Frank DeBoer's press conferences after games, is kind of like assumed he gets the first question. I think the rest of us also kind of subconsciously, now that it's been happening so long, just like wait for Doug to answer ask the first question to get the thing kicked off. I personally don't even like asking the first question because it's not like you don't honestly get the best answer sometimes. Sometimes they need one answer to kind of get loosened up.
Well, it's just like doing a podcast and having people on. It's like you need to know where the conversation is going, which will channel the rest of it essentially.
Yeah.
You don't want to just come out of left field with something that they're not even thinking about.
For sure. And you gotta get them like just lubricate a little bit with the whiskey or whatever it is to get them to start talking.
To just slide into the slot.
Sometimes, right. So sometimes that first question helps. But I would say Doug would
the splot.
I would probably say Doug on the first one. Then for taking them out, oh my goodness. I'd probably just try to like lose them in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I would try to just like run away from I could run away from Doug because he's got a bad foot. And
also does Tim.
Oftentimes walking with a limp.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that one. I would have to think about it. Although I don't really often think about how I'm going to take someone out.
Really? That's pretty much all I do in any room that I walk into is know my exit strategy and who I can eliminate if need be.
All right.
Felipe usually has a pen of some sort on him. So maybe you could like take it and use it against him. He doesn't. He uses his phone and that's it. He's like he's the only one up there who does not have a computer with him.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
He just like writes in a notebook.
Huh. Old school.
He's not. He's also I think.
Does he do the shorthand too, or does it?
I don't know. I'm not reading his notes.
Why not, man?
I should. He sits right next to me. I
Exactly.
probably could ask him what he's writing
probably
down.
got all the answers.
I should probably ask him. Get some tips from him. See
what
what he's taking notes on.
What is Brian talking about? Joe's PSR rating dropped to 4.6. What is PSR?
Is that the Audi index?
Does the Audi index actually even exist? I feel like anytime I've ever gone there,
that's right. It's from Naked and Afraid. I knew I recognized that from somewhere because after YouTube TV added Discovery Channel and HGTV, that's all I've watched is Naked and Afraid.
What does it stand for?
Professional survival rating.
Okay.
all right, got another one.
Let's do
So what's going on, guys? A few things real quick. Number one, 83 points or bust. Number two on the docket tonight would be, what would be your Open Cup starting lineup or starting 11? And by that, I mean the question that we're all going to be asking ourselves, Ken or Guzan? And finally, number three for us tonight to talk about. Currently, Carlos Vela leads with both big goals and assists category with 16 goals, 10 assists. What would be your over-under number for Joseph by the end of the season? I want to say about 25, maybe 27, but I'll leave that up to you guys, the experts. Hope you guys have a good night.
So let's go ahead and set the over-under at 25.5. Does Joseph go over or under?
Under for me. I mean, 25, that would have been near. What was the record that he broke last year? 26?
31. It was
that was what he finished on, but what was the number
28, I think
that it was before? Okay.
It was either 27 or 28 goals. I think he broke it maybe getting 28th goal.
Either way, 25 and a half is a lot. You know, that's nearing the old record. So
I'm thinking he ends up with 22.
I think this offense is just, or the way the attack is set up this year is just not as conducive for him to scoring. So
especially if Barco, I think Barco comes back and Barco starts scoring a shit ton of goals.
I think there will be more goals scored from the midfielders this year.
Agreed. I'll say 20. I'll up it by one. I'll say 23.
I'll say 21.
Yep.
27 goals. I think he's going to go.
How many does he have now? I don't even know. Off
he
the
has
top of
10.
my head. Oh, he has 10 already?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, bump me up to 22.
Yeah. Okay. So
Vela's sitting on 20 or not 20, 15 or 16.
16
goals.
I'd be shocked if he does not break the record.
No, he's going to break it. The way that offense rolls.
As long as he doesn't get injured. As long as he doesn't get injured.
Their goal differential right now, I don't know if you know what it is. It's 25. Or it was 25 before this weekend. I mean, it was the closest to them is like 12.
Like, I think if they win Supporter Shield, if they win the Supporter Shield and MLS Cup, they're the greatest MLS team of all time. Even if they don't win MLS Cup, I think you still have to you have to put them up there if they continue what they're doing right now. It is ridiculous. Like they have like the two highest shot attempters. They've got like 3 of their players are all in the top 7 in ball recoveries.
Now that said, whenever we play them in July, just as much as their goal differential is 25 and they have all these shots. On the other side of the coin, Atlanta United currently tied in first for goals allowed at 11. So again, it's the classic matchup of like the high-powered offense against a very stout defense. That's going to be a match that I think is going to say a lot about what MLS Cup could potentially be for both of these teams because you're really pitting. Arguably, right now, again, we still have another 6 or 7 weeks before we get there. Right now, arguably one of, if not the best defense in the league versus the best offense in the league.
I like that they only play once because the one matchup in the season makes it is the showcase game for MLS this season.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am trying to find a way to recover this voicemail. There's supposed to be a trash can that I can look at.
That's all right. We'll answer Joe's other question, which is starting 11 for U.S. Open Cup. Okay, so maybe rather than doing full starting 11, what are some surprise features that you foresee in that lineup that maybe aren't getting starts or regular playtime currently?
So I think you're going to see a lot of the guys who are kind of like on the fringe of Atlanta United and Atlanta United 2 getting in that squad. So I think a guy like Mikey Ambrose,
that was going to be my first one.
I think he'll probably play. You'll want to get some guys' fitness. I mean, in a competitive environment. The interesting part about it will be what Frank DeBoer said earlier this season about rotating the squad, which is that if you rotate everybody, you're not really giving any of them a chance.
Right.
You know, you're setting them all up for failure if you rotate the entire squad. So it'll be interesting to see what pieces he keeps in place. Like I think Miles Robinson, you'll keep there. You might play him alongside Florentine Pogba or something.
Pogba is one that had a great game.
But you're limited on your international slots as well. So you have to kind of take that into consideration.
Very true. Very true. So, I mean, I think Pogba, Mikey Ambrose, those are my 2 big ones. Justin Miram, I think we'll see potentially get a start.
I think so. Yeah, I think he'll definitely start. I think you're likely also to see either John Gallagher or Gordon Wilde start on the right.
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting to see a lineup that has Brekshé at left wing, which clearly he's had some success in. Maybe that's the game that you get your Mikey Ambrose in on left back.
Yeah.
You see Pogba back on defense. You keep somebody back there to show up the line. Miles Robinson hasn't shown any wear and tear or tendency to be worn down or fatigued. He's young. I think he's your anchor back there. Potentially Escobar staying back there with him, so you have some consistency there. Canner Guzan. It's a funny topic whenever we say it in jest from a starting position. But in this game, I mean, realistically, what do you think?
I'd give a Canner a run out.
I think so, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're on the road down there. Why not?
And it's not like replacing him is going to mess with like team chemistry, the way the team plays on the field.
Not at all.
He needs reps.
If anything, if we're talking about him potentially being a trade or a sell in the transfer window, his stock could. I mean, it's a way to showcase him in a way that you can't do it on a regular basis because he can't really play with the twos whenever you need him in the 18. So I think that's a great time for him to get into that lineup. Anybody else maybe in that starting lineup?
I think Romario might play. I said, be cautious about too many rotated players. Now I'm just saying every single backup, which because they've played so many games. But I think Romario.
Sorry, there's no way to recover the voicemail, so I fucked up royally.
Well, did you say you guys listened to it earlier?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. It was her being very sarcastic about just.
She said DeBoer out.
Can't recreate it.
First thing she said was DeBoer out.
I can't do a female British accent.
Oh, please try.
No.
Please try.
No, it's not happening.
Please do it.
Not
please.
Happening. No.
Please.
No.
He almost wanted to.
No, it was mostly just
DeBoer out.
out.
Breck Shea still sucks. And
I think we're terrible, something like that. Yeah. Pretty much what I tweeted out after the game.
Exactly.
It's like
that was a
screenshot of us being in first place for.
I really want to hear your female.
No, that's not happening. It's not happening. Anybody else in terms of you guys already touched on Romario, John Gallagher, Gordon Wild?
I don't see either one of them starting. I don't.
You don't think so?
No.
I think you see Dion Pereira play.
Dion Pereira.
I think.
See, the thing is, I just don't see Joseph Martinez starting in this game. He's played every single minute for the team, so you got to find someone else to.
Has he not been subbed out?
No, he has.
Oh, okay.
He's been subbed out one time. Yeah, I think he's played all but 18 minutes this season.
That's crazy.
In one substitution. I think other than that, he's played.
So then maybe your
minutes.
consistency is DP, and then you bring in Breck Shea in as a substitution for him. But I
Tito's not going to be back for a while with that LCL, right? It's just one of those.
I think it's just still up in the air.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem serious the way they've talked about it. It just seems like it's something.
What I understand about that ligament is that you might feel fine, and then it's unstable, and then it can end up causing one ligament could lead to multiple ligaments getting injured.
What do you think our odds are? So
Kevin Kratz, maybe you see him in the lineup,
maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
In the lineup is one thing, but starting,
I would say no. If he doesn't play with the twos before that, I would say no.
Okay.
What's your best prediction for how far Atlanta goes in Open Cup this year?
One and done? No.
How many rounds?
That's my prediction.
How many?
I would say they either go out. I think they could go out against Charleston, theoretically.
Really?
Possibly. I mean, if they rotate a bunch of players, they don't play well.
How's Charleston doing in USL right now?
No idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. I like that you don't like
the honesty.
But yeah, I just don't see a long cup run. They're going to have, after this U.S. Open Cup game, they're going to have another tough stretch of games.
We've already seen how playing one tournament seriously has fucked up our season.
Well,
fucked up part of our season.
The thing is, I think that what we suffered from in that one tournament was that how many of the set lineup got engaged in that, and it was a wear and tear on the players that you were planning to trot out there. We've got enough depth right now that conceivably half of the lineup could be players outside of your starting 11, and they've all been showcased in a way that they've had meaningful reps and had good performances when it's mattered. Pogba has had great performances. Breck Shea, Dion Pereira, they've been in the starting lineup consistently.
Pogba came in against Minnesota and was just karate kicking everything that came at him. He's just like, get it out of here.
I think the biggest concern I have is if Joseph sits. I mean, who's scoring consistently?
That's a question. We don't know.
That's what I think from the lineup, moving the ball around the field and the people that you have on the back line. I think you're fine with the people that you pull in there, but Romario is he going to be an Open Cup superstar that takes you super far. I don't know.
I think if there's one thing we know, it's that Frank de Boer doesn't really trust Romario that much. I think
That's true.
otherwise we would have seen him
Exactly.
some more.
Absolutely.
He's only ever come in. Well, I think at times when they've been down, he's come in as like a second striker, just like against Red Bulls. I think he came on
because we started just lofting crosses into the box, hoping that we can get a guy with a big.
Well, what do you do? I mean,
it.
maybe you're. I mean, if Justin Miram potentially being in the 10 slot, I guess, and then are you swapping out Pity and Joseph up top? So neither one of them are taking full games, but you've at least got somebody that you
if we completely just. Like they do that in other leagues where if you play
if you just throw it or if you just do complete squad rotation and you're not playing. I don't think there's anything.
Miram's definitely playing and starting.
Yeah.
I just wonder who's going to be scoring the goals. I guess
Carlton.
Justin could.
Little baby Carlton.
I mean, Tata often. He rotated pretty fully for these games. If I recall correctly. But he would keep the studs on the bench in case he needed, in case things got rough. He would just bring them
like
off.
against Charleston last year, right?
Exactly.
I mean, Joseph came in and rescued that game.
All right.
Or maybe that was 2 years ago, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago.
We got a couple more voicemails, right?
No, that was it.
That was it?
There
Just
were
the
two.
two?
Yeah.
Oh, no, there were 3. That's right.
Yeah, Michelle's. You're right.
No Kevin Gorham?
No Kevin Gorham.
No Mike Germal?
German?
Yeah.
Furman, German, German.
So we had Joe Johnstone, Andy Watkins. No PK?
No PK.
Brittany S. I need to get Brittany S on. She needs to call in.
Yeah.
Michelle, my favorite to cover is Atlanta United. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, what's that been like? So we haven't talked about that at all. And obviously it's been a while since we've seen each other.
Yeah.
Now beat writer, right? For 92.9.
Yeah.
Reporter.
Because it's not really written.
Yeah, correct. But yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Brittany says nope.
Covering the Braves now with 92.9. What's that transition? Is there been a transition?
Yeah, definitely a transition. The game is much different the way it's covered. I was talking to Kevin about it earlier before we started the show. It's just much different the way that fans bring in the game, or how they, what's the word I'm thinking of? Just like how they experience the game. Like it's very much stat based, right? Because it's baseball. Everything, home runs, batting average, that kind of stuff. So you really need to know that stuff. Whereas soccer, like I said, I don't even know what Charleston Battery are doing. That stuff's less important. You only really need to know the stats. You're more kind of interpreting what you see on the field. So it's different in that sense. And then also the other reporters are obviously very close knit. The Dave O'Briens, the Gabe Birds from the AJC. Those guys travel across the country together. They spend a ton of time together, so they're very tight. So there's just like a little bit of a different dynamic in the press box too, but everybody's nice, and I enjoy it overall for sure.
Yeah,
it's just different.
As the newbie,
it's longer. That was
yeah.
My first game, I was like, after 2 hours, like my foot started tapping, and it was like, okay, when's this thing over? It's like the bottom of the 5th. I'm like, oh no, it's gonna be a long season.
Man.
I think Andy Watkins has a name for your Braves coverage.
What's that?
Whip your hair back and forth. Whip, as in.
If only I had hair to whip.
Yeah.
King Websticles. That's a new name in the trap, right?
Yeah, saying Joe Patrick is everywhere nowadays. That is correct.
You're right.
I know King Websticles.
Do you?
From a very odd message board.
Oh, I want to know.
No, I don't know his name. I mean,
8chan.
What was the message board?
Is it 4chan or 8chan?
Is it Clop Clop?
Penwagers.com.
Birds with arms?
Named after the old SEC referee.
Oh, nice.
Is that the guy who's giving him the business?
No, that's Ron Cherry.
Oh, yeah. 15 yards, giving him the business. Oh, no, battery exhausted. Give me just a second.
Anyway, King Websticles used to be on there. If it's the same King Websticles, maybe it's totally different.
It's got to be. Surely that's not a completely different person. So speaking of being everywhere, where can the people find everything that you're doing for Barves and for Atlanta United, Dirty South Soccer?
Dirty South Soccer, 929thegame.com, I think. And J.A. Patrick 200.
J.A. Patrick 200, the
Twitter.
original Atlanta United influencer, Joe Patrick.
You guys still rolling out the H-Dads, right?
Yeah, we just did one last night. Yeah.
And J.A. Patrick on Twitter.
That's called 5 Stripe Final. You just subscribe to search Dirty South Soccer.
There you go.
on your podcatchers. Yeah, King Love Schools, the one and only King Love Schools.
I'm sure it is. I have no doubt about that.
The internet's a weird place.
It certainly is. It is a weird place, but you all found us amidst the madness. So thank you for tuning in with us. However you found us, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon to know whenever we go live. Be sure to give us 5 stars or whatever stars and a review on iTunes or Apple Podcast, as it's now called, because iTunes is dead. To hear it read aloud on the show, find us collectively at Home Before Dark on Twitter. That's before spelled B and the number 4. Love the hell out of you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. As always, be home before dark. I'm sorry I was